You are listening to The Underground Subway with host David Alston, a podcast dedicated to giving you the strategies to live a free and better life. Here is David Alston.
Hi, I'm David Alston, host of The Underground Subway, and I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of The Underground Subway podcast, a podcast that is dedicated to one thing. We're dedicated to giving you the strategies, the tools necessary to live a better and more successful life. No matter what you've gone through in the past, no matter what struggles you've had yesterday or yesteryear, no matter what struggles you had this morning or last night, today is the dawn of a new day. Listen, my friends, whenever you go on a trip, you pull out your GPS on your phone or wherever on your tablet or in the car. And before you travel, you have to put some information in the GPS. Number one, the GPS is going to examine where you are. That's what you have to do in life. You have to examine where you are in life. Then you tell the GPS where you're going. What is your destination? You've got to tell life, this is what I want to do. This is where I plan on going. Then the GPS will tell you how long it's going to take to get there and what road you need to travel to get there. And then you hit the go button. This podcast is the GPS system. That's why we call the subway. We're going underground and we're going to get you to a better life, not just you, but your entire family as well. This podcast is designed and dedicated to let you know that there may be certain areas in your life that you need to be liberated from. What does that mean? To be liberated means to live a life, to live, think, to act without restraints. Have you been living a life in which you've had secret chains? Well, the underground subway is designed to help set you free. I'm excited to have a special guest with me for this edition of the Underground Subway. Let me tell you a little bit about my guest for the Underground Subway for this edition. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Michael Harris, who is our guest. Michael is an author, coach, trainer, yoga teacher. He's an entrepreneur, and he's the co-founder of Endless Stages. His first entrepreneurial gig was selling blackberry pies door to door when he was 6 years old. Over the years, he's dabbled, or more likely, he's dived into photography, real estate, option trading, coaching, and yoga. One of Michael's specialties is helping anyone move from fear of speaking in front of others to powerfully sharing their message in front of any size group or audience. He's grateful that he's been able to take his personal challenges and help others find what inspires them. For years, Michael struggled with health issues, addictions, and low self-esteem. Then one day, he had enough and became willing to make a change. It wasn't easy. Michael had to stop dreaming about what he wanted and began to take massive action by applying the law of Goya. Many of his friends and colleagues urged him to use his metamorphosis to inspire others. At one point, Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, reminded him that your mess is your message. That's powerful. I like that. He went on to join his book launch of his number one best-selling book, Falling Down, Getting Up. He's blessed to have Rick Frishman and David Hancock from Morgan James Publishing be his publishers. He's owned or partnered in several successful yoga studios and coached other studio owners around the world on attracting and enrolling new students while increasing revenue and profits over $40 million in sales. In addition to that, he's helped train and certify about 7,000 yoga teachers and to get untwisted and speak in small and large groups. Listen, my friends, Michael has a saying that says one more open heart in the world is one more open heart in the world. I'm just excited to welcome my friend and my fellow podcaster, Michael Harris, to the Underground Subway. Thank you, Michael, for joining us. I'm telling you that your bio is so impressive. It takes up the entire podcast just to get it out.
Well, we'll just record 2 episodes, David.
There you go. There you go. Thank you for joining us, my friend. tell us I normally I'd actually tell a little bit about yourself, but I think we covered everyone, everything about you in that bio, but you have a tremendous story. So let's just jump right into our conversation. Listening to your bio, you have a tremendous story, a life story. And someone may say, well, you have a story and I have one, but mine is not as impressive as yours. Tell us, is that true or false, or why is everyone's story in life so important?
There's several questions in there. One of the things that you said before you introduced me was about, do you have secret chains holding you back?
Uh-huh.
And, you talked about setting yourself free. And I love the way that you said that. And the first thing that occurred to me is December 14th, 1988, I woke up in a hospital bed. A friend of mine came to me. I'd been drinking all night long, ended up in the hospital, and he said, "Are you ready yet?" And I was ready. And I felt like that moment, those chains that I heard you talk about got released. And I felt like I was set free. And I've never turned back since. It was like a swoosh, the swooshing feeling, David, that went through me, that I knew my life was going to change at that moment. And it did. I've never had another drop of alcohol, never had another cigarette, nothing. Everything was removed.
Wow. Is it that simple, or was it something inside of you that, was it just that simple to say, I'm done? Or did your personal beliefs or who you were, did that contribute more than it may for others?
I think it wasn't simple, but when the time came, it was easy. Let me say that.
Okay.
Because the prior years and I was 30 years old. It was shortly after my 30th birthday, and I'm 63 now, so it's been a while. But I bumped up a lot. I had those secret chains. I was tied down. I was angry. I was depressed. I was angry at God, and that moment, that all changed. I at 12 years old, I suffered a water skiing accident, and I ended up having more than half my liver, 60% of my liver removed, 21 blood transfusions, cracked ribs, collapsed lung. I slid into a coma. Make a long story short, David, I had a near-death experience, and I left my body, and I found myself surrounded by spirit. And then all of a sudden, I found myself coming back to my body. And I didn't want to come back, and I reached out. And I says, I don't want to go yet. And they said, it's time for you to go back. Everything is going to be okay.
Wow. Wow.
Well, for a while that was true, but I ended up becoming angry because I didn't want to come back. I became really angry at God. I wanted to stay where I was. I didn't want to be in this life. So by the time I was 14 years old, that was 12 when the accident happened. By the time I was 14, I was a wild kid. I was running around. I dived deep in those areas. My self-esteem sucked. It was just like, I didn't believe anybody would like me. I had all these scars on my body. If they really knew me, they wouldn't like me. All those types of things that were running through my head at that time that were really holding me back. The chains that I heard you talk about, secret and sometimes not so secret, you know? And then I'm going to go fast forward a little bit. I was 27 years old. I had bypass surgery on both my legs, what's called a fempop. They were going to cut off my legs from vascular disease. And my right leg was 100% blocked. My left leg was 65% blocked. I had a surgery on each leg. They wanted to do more surgeries. I left the hospital AMA, against medical advice, and I started walking.
Wow.
Changed my life. I went from walking 10 feet to 2 miles in 2 weeks.
Wow. Let me ask you a question, Michael. You said something twice, and I want to ask you this question. I hope I'm not opening a can of worms or taking us into left field, but you said that you were angry with God. Is it okay to be angry with God?
That could be a left field question. Is it okay to be angry with God? My answer, I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
I mean, certainly I was at the time, and maybe we'll go deep into right field on what I'm about ready to say. But there's a prayer that I've found over the years that I'm attached to.
Okay.
And the prayer says, take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I may help with thy power, thy love, and the way of life. Well, that anger, those difficulties, the health struggles, drinking too much, all those difficulties that were then later removed from me, that needed to happen for me to be able to demonstrate thy power.
Okay. Right.
So without it, I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have just come along and said, hey, I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. Nothing ever happened to me, but I can fix you. No, I needed to go through it first to be a great service to others.
Okay, well, I went in the left field, you went into right field. So now I think maybe it's time to go into the bleachers.
There you go, at least center field.
Yeah, center field into the bleachers. You mentioned a prayer. What do you think about this? There's a prayer that says, and I'm really not I guess I'm a fan of the prayer, but then again, I've started to look at that prayer in a different light, and it's called the Serenity Prayer. And there's a line in the prayer that says, God, grant me the wisdom to accept the things that I cannot change.
Yep.
In my opinion, I've started saying, I don't want to accept the things I cannot change. I want to work on changing those things. What do you feel about that? Am I in center field, or I don't want to accept. I don't want to accept
in
things.
All three fields. I don't know. No, but I've had a love-hate relationship with the Serenity Prayer myself.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've looked at some of that and going, well, I can't really change anything. I'll go through periods where there's nothing and I feel like I can't change a thing. Right.
Right.
And then there's times where I feel like I have to change everything.
Exactly.
There's times, where I feel like the superpower that I want is not to be Batman to fight against evil, but to have more serenity, more peace in my heart,
Right.
So well, yeah, I'm with you, David. Yeah.
Okay, because I feel as though, hey, why accept things that I can't change? Why can't I work on changing these things if they are that important to me?
Yeah.
How important? Go ahead.
I was going to say the last sentence of that prayer is wisdom to know the difference.
True. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Talk to us about about, you were talking about how you walked, and you went from walking, you ended up walking 2 miles and walking from 10 feet to 2 miles. And how important is it with that physical progression that you went through? How important was it emotionally? Did your emotional being, what role, or how important was it that your emotional being was able to walk? Because, I mentioned when the podcast started about a GPS system. Well, before we travel somewhere, we always travel there in our mind before we do in our body, because we always think of where we're going. And it's almost like we can picture going. How important is it to have a good mental state attached to the physical? I'm not sure whether I'm asking hope you get what I'm saying. You did a tremendous thing physically. Well, how important was your mental state? What role did that play?
great question. And when I was, in the hospital and the surgeons were there, they were telling me one thing. They were saying, we don't know why this is happening. My cholesterol was 140. All my blood panels were normal. So there's no reason for me to have authorized plaque in my arteries. And I said, well, they couldn't figure out what was causing it. And that's part of the reason I didn't have another surgery. And then I went to a place called Pritikin Longevity Center, which is on the boardwalk in Santa Monica. And the doctor down there, I want to say, David, that he gave me permission to change my life. And he didn't have the answer about why it was happening, but he told me to, you mentioned the law of Goya earlier. It also has to do with the law of attraction and all that kind of stuff. David Asaraf, which was one of the authors of The Secret, came up with the term. The law of Goya is get off your ass, right?
Okay. And I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, you have to take action.
Okay.
So the doctor down at the Pritikin Center, he said, get up and walk. Well, I'd never been told that before. He says, you get up and walk, and he says, you're going to start building new blood vessels in your legs. And I went, really? And he says, go out to the boardwalk, and here it is, 1987. There's a lot of girls on rollerblades going up and down that boardwalk. I was not going to be the 97-pound weakling in the sand, right?
Right.
So I walked tall, I walked strong. I wasn't going to look weak, right? So I started walking 10 feet. I'd rest for a minute. 11 feet, I'd rest. 12 feet, I'd rest. And I kept doing that day in and day out until I could get up and down that boardwalk without stopping, from the Santa Monica Pier down to Marina del Rey, which I don't know if you've ever been down there,
yes,
but it's a boardwalk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I went from using a cane, because when I got there, I had a cane in one hand and I was using the wall to walk with the other hand. And again, 2 weeks later, I was walking 2 miles unassisted.
Wow.
Now, I think that this God that I was angry at was also the one that helped me do that. Also helped to restore me to my health, restore my health in my life.
Wow. Now talk to us about it. You mentioned Goya, but you switched those letters around. We also talked about yoga. How important is what role does yoga play in it? And explain to me like I'm a 6-year-old.
Oh, that's a good question. Let me ask you first. Are you using shoelaces or slip-ons today?
Well, I got that from the movie Philadelphia, which is where I'm from. Denzel Washington asked he was an attorney in the movie, and he asked a witness a question. He said, now explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old. So explain yoga to me like I'm a 6-year-old.
Yeah. No, it's a great question, because a 4-year-old looks like looking at a 6-year-old that can tie the shoes. The 6-year-old is the master of shoe tying, right? The 4-year-old is in awe of that.
Well, if I don't start stretching a little more, I'm not going to be able to tie my shoes.
So let me tell you about yoga. I had started yoga. Actually, the first class I took was at the Pritikin Center. And it was more of a stretching class. It was really super gentle, but I kind of liked it. I'd never done it before. And so that was at, Santa Monica. I was living in Portland at the time. And I went back to Portland and I started going to this gym, and they had a yoga class, and I kept doing it along with the other stuff. And I really, really liked it. And it really made me feel better. Well, that was 1987, 1988 as I started doing that, never thinking it was going to be that big of my life. By 1993, I was doing it almost every day. I started doing the hot stuff, the hot yoga. And in the mid 90s, I made a bunch of money option trading, all call options. That's another story, another left field venture. But I made a lot of money and wanted to take my suit and tie off and just do yoga.
Okay.
Right. So I did. And I took a couple of years off and I went to this training with the founder of the hot yoga, Bikram Chadre. And when I got there, again, this is 1998, I'd gone to the Pritikin Center in 87. I still had a little pain in my leg. It wasn't totally gone, but I thought if I went to this training, I could get rid of the pain. I didn't go to become a teacher. I went to heal my body, once and for all, right? The last little tidbits of pain that I was still experiencing. Again, within a couple of weeks, my pain was gone, totally gone. I was doing 5-6 hours of yoga a day, every day for 11 weeks.
Wow.
11 weeks, every day. And a week later, I was asked to teach somewhere, even though it wasn't my intention to do that. A year after that, I had my first studio in Portland, and then I opened up another studio in Bend, Oregon. And along the way, I helped other people with their studios. Along the way, I helped Bikram do about 30 teacher trainings. I either led or taught at the trainings. So we worked with, in that period of time, probably 6,000 or 7,000 new teachers, helping them do that. And then I started a consulting coaching company, Yoga Business Expert, and we worked with yoga studios all over the world on building their enrollment in their schools to attract, enroll, and retain more clients. Again, I owned a couple of studios. I partnered in several other studios, revenue share type situations, and then just pure coach, helping people, again, build their enrollment.
Wow. What do you say to the person that says, I think I'm a little too old for yoga. I can't really, I'm not flexible enough. I can't move my knees. I've got arthritic knees and I've got bad shoulder and my legs hurt when I crawl out of bed in the morning. Yoga is not for me. What do you say to that person?
Well, it's kind of a funny little thing that I like to say is, it's just, well, let me ask you a question. Are you too dirty to take a shower?
Ooh, that's
Do
good.
you smell too much to take a shower? Do you have dirt on your knees? Have you been working, So you're never too old to start again. As a matter of fact, because of those reasons are good reasons to start. I've had lots of people, and I don't know if you know who Max Unger is. He played on the offensive line for the Seahawks for about 10 years up to 2019. So he was in my class the other day, and his body had been pretty beat up from football. You probably remember a guy named Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
I don't. I vaguely remember him.
He was a tall guy. He liked to bounce balls.
I told you I'm from Philadelphia, so he's crushed a few of my dreams.
Yeah, I'm sure. But he's been an avid practitioner. When I was teaching a lot in LA, he would come in. We would have one of my most favorite teachers is 94 now. Wow. Still doing headstands, and she didn't start till 50 years old.
Wow.
So we have lots of people. Nancy Cronkite, when she came in the 90s, in the late 90s, Walter Cronkite's daughter, probably remember Walter Cronkite.
Oh yeah, big fan of Walter.
Yeah. So Nancy would come in. She had just had a double hip replacement and started doing yoga every single day for years, and it just had changed her life. I mean, I could go on and on and on, Dave.
So does yoga only affect the body, or does it affect the body and the mind?
Body and mind are connected. So it's all one. I used to separate it, and I don't even like really that term mind body anymore, because to me it's all like one piece. Right,
exactly.
Yeah.
So what do you say? What
Go
do you
ahead.
say? What do you say to a person that says, and I'm going to, instead of me just saying, what do you say to a person? I'll be that person. What do you say to me? Uh, I want to start yoga. One of my guests was talking about it, and one of my guests said, well, the first thing you need to do is uh, lay on the floor and put your legs up in the air, up against the wall for 5 minutes. What do you say to a person to start? That's the A. The B part of that question, do you recommend because we're in a technological age now, do you recommend yoga by way of the technology, the phone apps or YouTube, or do you have to have an individual trainer, a yoga trainer?
I think having a teacher is really important.
Okay.
It's like, I don't know if, do you play golf, David?
Every chance that I can find a course.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Oh, yes.
And do you skydive?
Not yet. That's on my list.
Would you skydive without a teacher?
No, well, going back to your golf analogy, I still struggle because for years I worked on my game on my own. Then when I tried to hire a golf trainer, it took him forever to remove all of the bad habits that I started off with.
Yeah, we all have them.
Yes.
I know. I mean, I'm not a golfer now, or used to be a golfer, but same with yoga. Going to a competent yoga teacher, you're going to instill the good habits to begin with.
Right.
We all have bad habits, regardless. Or you're playing golf and your grip is a little bit off, or you're holding the club at the wrong angle, or something. Same thing with yoga. You can do it virtual. There's a lot of great virtual classes out there. You can do it in a studio. Find something you like. Try a couple different ones rather than just the same one, because one class won't give you an idea of all the possibilities, because there's so many different styles and types, and each person is going to find what works for them.
Okay. So what is the first step you need to take? Is it finding a trainer or just getting an introduction to it? Or
my suggestion is just to find a local studio. Look it up in your book, in your phone book. Well, I guess we don't have phone books anymore, do we? I guess that dates me, doesn't it?
I wasn't going to say
Google
that,
it.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that. You said that.
It's like telephone booths. Nobody knows what they are anymore.
Right. So in the few minutes that we have left, not seconds, we have a few minutes left. In a few minutes, talk to us about that law of attraction.
Well, the law of attraction seems to be, for a lot of people, some woo-woo mystical type thing. But I don't know about you, David, but, I'll often think, what do I want for dinner?
Okay.
And then if I don't have the ingredients, I'll go to the store, but I'll get a picture of, I want to have a veggie rice bowl or whatever. I'm just making this up, right?
Right.
Because I like veggie rice bowls. I want to have a veggie rice bowl. So I have a picture in my mind of what that looks like and what it tastes like, right? So I've got that mental image. I'll then go to the store and I'll get the rice and the veggies I want and the sauce I want, whatever that might be. And then I bring it back and I put it all together and I cook it and I put it there on my placemat to eat. I have now manifested this thing that I had just thought about a couple hours earlier, this dinner, right?
Right.
It's that simple, right? It's not a complicated, we got to sit around and wait for Aunt Mabel to drop $1 million on us. It's probably not going to happen.
Exactly.
But we can use that same idea of the recipe to create what we want, to attract what we want in our life, whether it's our dinner, whether it's our business. You've done this with your podcast. You said, I want to have a podcast. You said, okay, what ingredients do I need? I need a microphone. I need this. I need a Zoom account. I need a website. And you put those ingredients together and you have this incredible podcast where you're out helping people spread their stories and helping other people.
Wow.
Right?
Exactly.
So we're
Wow.
already doing it.
We're already doing it. Wow. That's powerful because we can take what we're already doing it and just apply it to different areas of our lives and be successful. That's
Right.
that's powerful.
And
Well,
I know we're almost at our end, so
yep,
let me briefly say something to
sure,
that note.
sure.
You know, people struggle a lot with speaking and talking in public and all of that.
Right.
I would suspect, David, that probably in early grade school, first, second, or third grade, you had show and tell time.
That's right.
And
Loved it.
you got up
Loved
in
it.
front of the room, right?
Right.
Public speaking 101 is show and tell.
Yeah,
So like
that's right.
today, when I work with speakers that are uncomfortable, they're nervous, we go
Mhm.
back to that time when they're in grade school doing show and tell, and I'm, you know, showing them and reminding them that they already have what they need to be the speaker they want to be.
Wow. Wow. So if that's the case, what you're saying, then we already have it. We have to check, quote unquote, check our inner circle so that we have people such as yourself inside of that circle to push us, to train us to say, you already have it, as opposed to someone that said, you can't do it.
Right, exactly. Because
Wow.
we already have it. It's just learning how to use it.
How to use it, how to use it. Wow, that's powerful. Well, my friend, I want to thank you. Tell us a little bit about how the listeners can get in touch with you, or any material, anything that you have. How can we contact you?
The easiest way is to go to my website, michaelbharris.com. That's B as in boy, michaelbharris.com. And for anybody that's interested in speaking, whether it's on podcast or on stage or webinars, wherever it might be, there's a little opt-in there, and you can opt in, and we have a whole membership site full of free resources and videos on everything from overcoming stage fright to how to create your story, all sorts of free resources there as well. And a group called Endless Stages, a group of people that are interested in being out in the world, in helping other people, liberate themselves really from those chains that I heard you talking about earlier, to help set us free. And I believe that stories can help do that. We've been doing it since the beginning of time, sitting around the fires, thousands of years ago. Storytelling changes lives, period.
Yes, it does. Yes, it
Right?
does. Yes, it does. Well, my friend, I want to thank you for joining us, and maybe we can get together and do this again in the future.
I'd love to, David. Anything you want. It's all good.
Sounds great. Well, my friends, I want to thank you for allowing us to speak and to pour into your lives. I want to thank you for all the time that you spent listening. I want to thank a special thank you to my guest, Michael B. Harris, for joining us here on the Underground Subway. I want to thank you for your time. I want to let you know that I take not for granted that you listen in the car, or listen at home, listen at work, or on the treadmill at the gym, wherever you may be listening. I greatly appreciate it. Listen, my friends, the Underground Subway, we have one purpose, and it's to give you the tools necessary to push you forward, to give you a better life. This subway is rolling, but unfortunately, we have hit our stop, and it's time for you to hop off this subway until next time. But before you go, I want to challenge you, before you go to bed tonight, find a mirror and look yourself right in the eyes, face to face, eyeball to eyeball, and ask yourself a question. Today, did I do something to make the world a better place? Did I do something to release the chains that have been holding myself and others down? Or did I waste another day? Think about that. We don't have time to waste anymore. Time is precious. I want you to have a great today and an even better tomorrow. And I'll see you next time right here on the Underground Subway.